I want to show you how to draw curves with the pen tool. This is a little trickier than drawing straight lines, but it's really well worth it. Before we start doing it, let's make sure that we don't have any fill color at all. So if you need to, click the box for the fill color to come up and click the slash for none. Stroke color could be anything you want. Default black is fine. Give it a color if you like. The thickness of the stroke, I have it as 1 point. You probably don't want it too thick right now. Okay, so we're just going to do this freehand to start. Let's get the pen tool. And there's kind of a couple of things you could do with the very first point, that is setting the first anchor point. You could simply click and take your finger off the mouse button just like you were going to draw a straight line, but instead of just clicking, so I got my mouse pointer over here, it doesn't really matter, you can sort of click and drag. And when you're clicking and dragging, you see you're bringing out those handles. And depending on which direction you're turning, you're moving the mouse pointer, that'll change the angle of the curve. You could also bring your mouse pointer farther away or closer in, and you see that also changes the angle and direction of the curve. I'm going to leave it alone like that. I'm just going to draw another completely new curve. You notice that the mouse pointer that I have here is ready to draw another line segment of this curve. And you know that because the mouse pointer itself, there's no little symbol or anything attached to it. Actually, I'll just prove it to you. Why the heck not? If you want, just click and you see it's going to draw another line segment. So if you want to draw a brand new curve that's not connected to that, even if your mouse pointer is way down here, you need to deselect. So this is how drawing curves with the pen tool is very different from drawing straight line segments with the pen tool. So shortcut to just select everything and stay on the pen tool without switching tools back and forth is press Control-Shift-A, or on the Mac that would be Command-Shift-A, so that deselects everything. It keeps the pen tool active, and now you see you have the little star next to it, so you know it's going to be a new line segment. Now up here when I drew, what did I do? I just simply clicked, released, and then I dragged. This time it'll be a little different. I'm going to click and immediately drag. Now, it looks like I'm immediately drawing a line segment, but I'm not. All I'm doing is I'm placing the anchor point and I'm dragging out where I want the handle to be. That's all. So there's no curve, there's no line segment. I'm just adjusting that. Now I'll put my mouse pointer, maybe I'll put it over here, why the heck not, and I'll draw a curve. Notice something that's happening. Because this original one here, kind of hard to point with my finger down on the mouse button, but that original one, you notice I dragged down. I dragged the mouse pointer down after placing the anchor point. Over here, I'm dragging up. I'm dragging in the opposite direction. So you see that's giving me that kind of round curve. As long as you drag in the opposite direction, first up then down, or first down then up, then you can get a smooth curve, going one way or going the other. If you drag in the same direction, two anchor points next to each other, that will give you an S-curve. So if I keep dragging up and up and up, I'll get a whole bunch of these sort of S-curve shapes. There's no right way or wrong way, it just depends on what you want to draw. Again, I'm going to press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac to deselect. And what if you want to draw maybe a combination of some curves and some straight lines? What you do is this. You can either click or click and drag as you choose. I'm going to draw up this time. And maybe I want a curved shape. And it doesn't have to be directly up or directly down. I could draw at an angle if I like, whichever way I want, depending on what I'm drawing. So here's some curves. And to append a straight line segment, you might think, oh yeah, I remember. I just click. I don't drag anywhere. One little thing you need to do first is if I simply click, right, because the last thing that I did here was I clicked and I dragged up there, so Illustrator is now prepared to draw a curved segment. If I simply put my mouse pointer here and click, look at that, it gives me a curve instead of a straight line. So I'm going to undo, press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac, and before I click here, I need to double back. I need to click on this anchor point that I just placed, and now I can click and click and click and get straight line segments. Now if I want curved segments, I can start drawing or dragging to get curves again. So I could always click on an anchor and then draw a straight line segment. or I can click and drag to get a curve. Okay, so I want to show you how to be a little bit more exacting. I have open a file called Anchors, and you'll find this in the Chapter 3 folder of the project files. And you see I have some shapes here that are already drawn, and you see they're kind of grayed out. We haven't talked about layers yet, but these are on a layer that is visible but locked, and I also took the line segments and I brought down the opacity so that you can just see kind of a reduced opacity watermark so it won't get in your way. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw these shapes, and you see that in addition to the shapes that I have here are these little dots. So here on the shapes, like up here, over here, and over here, I have where the anchor points are, and these kind of little round dots like here and here and here. That's where we'll move the mouse pointer to get the shape. So you see this S curve here? This is just really 3 points, top, middle, and bottom. All right, put your mouse pointer here, and you see even though this shape is on a locked layer, it's still telling you that, hey, you happen to be over an anchor point. So what you want to do is click and drag here to that little dot and then let go. You're just simply placing an anchor point and you're dragging to where a handle is going to be. Now let's go over here to this point and click and drag in the opposite direction over here. And when you reach that anchor point, now you see you've created that curve, right? So you dragged up and to the left, and then you dragged down and to the right. And now to create this curved segment, we'll just kind of do it again. Put your mouse pointer on this spot and click and drag up to that dot, and now you've created that curve. Let's get a better look at it. Click the selection tool, or you could just press V for the shortcut. Kind of deselect, and now you can get kind of a better look at it. And now maybe if you want, you can make it a little thicker, give it a color. Maybe I'll make this, say, 3 or 4 points, and I'll get the stroke. And then maybe I'm going to go over here to the swatches panel and just click a color, green or something like that, deselect. So this is really what you drew. All right, let's go down here a little bit. I'll just roll the mouse wheel or use the space bar and come down here. This one is going to be a little bit more involved. Zoom in if you want. I'll press Control plus, maybe just once or twice. And here we're going to draw some mixed shapes. So again, let's make sure that the fill box is set to none. So click the fill box, click none. I realize I forgot to do that over here, but that's okay. Here there's nothing that's going to be in the way. Over here you might get some interference. And if you have a color in there, that's okay. But I think I'm going to set this to 1 point. All right, so let's get the pen tool, and we'll start over here. And I'm going to drag up here. Now, if I'm really not very careful, I could draw at an angle one way or the other. If you hold down the Shift key, see, even if you're moving the mouse a little bit in the, in one direction or another, the Shift key will keep it straight. So drag up till you hit that anchor. Alrighty, always, if you're going to use the key, always let go of the mouse pointer before letting go of the key. And now put your mouse pointer over here, hold down and hold the Shift key down if you want, and drag down to this anchor point. Good, so now you've created that curve. Now we'll go in the opposite direction, kind of like what we did before. Put your mouse pointer over on this one and drag up until you hit that dot. So now you have this second segment. We'll do again in the opposite direction. Click on this point and drag down here. Now what if you drag straight down 2 or 3 times in a row? Well, you get this S curve. So put your mouse pointer on this anchor point and drag straight down, and put your mouse pointer on this anchor point and drag straight down. So this way you have some S curves, right, because you dragged in the same direction instead of an opposite direction. And now we want to put some straight line segments. So remember, you don't just want to click here yet. You want to click on this spot first. So click and then click and click and click. You use the Shift key if you want, if you need to make sure to keep it straight. So now you have several different types of line segments in a row. And if you want, again, get the regular selection tool, get the stroke symbol, and give it a color. Let's say it was green. Maybe this I'll make red, and click it here And I'll make this a little thicker so you can get a better look at it. And if you want, feel free to get the direct selection tool and play around with these handles. Right? Click an anchor point and then drag a handle, drag it straight up to make that curved segment a little shorter, drag it down to make it deeper, or drag it side to side to change the angle.